My fiancée ghosted me and ran off with our wedding money. I replied by texting her mom, "Congrats on raising a thief." Then I pressed charges and got her arrested for fraud. Now her lawyer is frantically calling for a settlement. I, 32 male, am sitting here, a week out, and it still feels like a scene from a bad movie. But the anger is cold, focused. Last Saturday, I was supposed to be getting married to Clara, 29. Instead, I woke up to an empty apartment and an even emptier joint wedding account. About $35,000, gone, vanished. So had Clara. No note, no call, no it's not you, it's me. Just poof. Her clothes, passport, everything. Like she was never here. We'd been together 5 years, planning this wedding for the last year. Every vendor deposit, every little detail paid from that account. Money we both put in, though a larger chunk, around $25, was from a bonus I got. My first call, after the initial shock wore off, took a few hours, not gonna lie, mostly paced the apartment like a caged animal, was to her parents. Her mom, Brenda, answered, all cheerful. "Brenda," I said, voice flat. "Clara's gone, so is the wedding money." Silence. Then a sort of fluttering laugh. "Oh Mark, you jokers, she's probably just got pre-wedding nerves, out with her sister Layla probably." "No," I said. "Layla's called me twice already, wondering where Clara is. She's not with her. The account is empty. Her stuff is gone." The denial was thick. "Clara wouldn't do that. There must be a mistake. You probably misplaced the money, or she's using it for a surprise." "A surprise, right?" "Brenda, she took everything. It's theft." That's when the tone shifted. "Now Mark, don't you dare accuse my daughter. She's a good girl. Maybe she just realized she couldn't go through with it and needed space. The money? Well, weddings are expensive. Maybe she felt she was owed some of it for her time." For her time? I almost choked. That's when I hung up and sent the text. "Congrats on raising a thief. Petty? Maybe. Satisfying? Absolutely." Then I called the police, filed a report, fraud, grand larceny, whatever they could stick. Provided bank statements, screenshots of texts where we discussed wedding expenses coming from that account, vendor contracts. They were surprisingly understanding. Detective Miller listened, took notes, said they'd look into it. Next, I called all the vendors, explained the situation, lost most of the deposits, obviously. Caterer was nice, florist too, venue not so much, but that's money, it can be remade. The betrayal is the kicker. Slept about 2 hours that first night. The next day, Detective Miller called. They'd flagged her name at the airport. Turns out she'd booked a one-way ticket to another state a week prior. A week. She was planning this while we were tasting cake samples. Update 1, 2 weeks later. Okay, things escalated, just like I figured they would. The internet rage was validating. Thanks for that, folks. So about 4 days after my original post, Detective Miller calls me. "Mr. Harrison, we located Ms. Vance. She was less than cooperative. We've placed her under arrest based on the evidence you provided. She's being processed." Arrested. Wow. Even though I set the wheels in motion, hearing it was still a jolt. A weird mix of relief and something else. Sadness, maybe? For the guy who was excited to marry her a few weeks ago. That guy's an idiot, W. The arrest happened in another state, so there's a whole extradition process, but the charges are serious enough. Fraud over $10,000 is no joke. Then, the calls started. First, Brenda, Clara's mom, screaming, full-on banshee wail. "How could you do this to her? She made a mistake, a youthful indiscretion. You're ruining her life over some money. You have a good job, you can make it back." "Brenda," I said, tired, "she stole $25,000. That's not an indiscretion, it's a felony. She planned it. She could have talked to me, walked away. She chose to steal. She was scared. You pressured her into this wedding. Complete BS. She picked the damn venue and 90% of the decor. You need to drop the charges, Mark. We'll pay you back some of it when we can." "Some of it? When you can?" "No. This is in the hands of the police now. She needs to face the consequences." I hung up. Then Layla, her sister, called. More reasonable, but still pushing. "Mark, I had no idea. I swear. This isn't like her. But prison? Really? Can't you just settle this?" She's terrified. Mom and Dad are a mess. "Layla, she had my number. She could have called. She chose to run and hide after emptying our account. What would you have me do?" "I don't know, but she's my sister. Please. There must be another way." The other way was for her not to steal a life-altering amount of money from me the day before our wedding. I said, "Tell her to get a good lawyer." And apparently she did. Or her parents did. Yesterday I got a call, blocked number, answered it. Mr. Harrison? This is Julian Vance, Clara's father, and Mr. Finch, our attorney, is on the line. Oh goody, a conference call. Mr. Finch, smooth lawyer voice, starts in. Mr. Harrison, we understand you're upset. Clara understands she made a significant error in judgment. An error in judgment? She committed a felony, Mr. Finch. Yes, well, semantics. The point is, Clara is willing to make amends. We're prepared to offer a settlement. Return of a portion of the funds, say $15,000, in exchange for you petitioning the DA to drop all charges. I actually laughed. A portion? 15 grand? After she gets arrested, you suddenly find some of the money? No, absolutely not. And it's not up to me to petition the DA. She's been arrested. The state is pressing charges based on felony theft and fraud. Julian Vance chimes in, voice tight. My boy, be reasonable. She's a young woman with her whole life ahead of her. A criminal record will destroy her future. Don't you have any compassion? Compassion? Did she have any compassion when she cleaned out the account and left me to pick up the pieces? When she booked a flight while telling me she loved me? My compassion ran out somewhere between discovering the empty account and canceling the caterers. Mr. Finch again. Mr. Harrison, a trial will be messy, public, your personal life dragged through the mud. Clara will testify she felt coerced, that the wedding was all your idea, that she panicked. Let her, I said, my voice like ice. I have every text, every email, every receipt showing our joint planning. I have the date she bought her plane ticket. Her panic seems to have been pretty well orchestrated. This isn't a negotiation. The $25,000 was for a wedding. Now it's evidence in a criminal case. Any further discussion can happen between you and Detective Miller or the DA's office. Hung up. My heart was hammering. The sheer audacity. Error in judgment. Coerced. Unbelievable. Then Brenda again. This time crying. Not angry, just pathetic. Mark, please. She'll pay it all back. We'll take out a loan. Just make them let her go. She's not built for jail. It'll break her. She should have thought of that before she became a thief, Brenda. Click. Now my phone is blowing up with calls from Mr. Finch. Left 3 voicemails today, each one a little more frantic. Mr. Harrison, please call me back. We need to discuss this. We can improve our offer. My client is very distressed. Yeah, I bet she is. Turns out consequences are a real thing. Let him sweat. I'm meeting with the assistant DA next week to give a full victim impact statement. Not backing down. She made her bed. Now she can lie in it, preferably in a cell for a bit. Update 2. 1 month later. Man, it's been a wild month. The entitlement from Clara's camp just kept on giving. It's almost impressive, in a sickening way. So after Mr. Finch's frantic calls, which I ignored and directed to the ADA handling the case, things got creative. First, Layla, the sister, shows up at my apartment, unannounced, rings the bell like she's here for tea. Mark, we need to talk, she says, all earnest. Layla, I'm talking to the DA. That's who Clara's lawyer should be talking to. No, we need to talk, as people who both care about Clara. She actually tried to push past me into my apartment. I blocked her. She's not eating. She's a wreck. Her lawyer says you're being vindictive. That you're enjoying this. Enjoying this? My life got blown up, Layla. I lost a huge sum of money. My fiancé turned out to be a criminal and I had to cancel my own wedding. Yeah, this is a barrel of laughs. Now if you'll excuse me. Then she tries the guilt trip. You know, Mom and Dad are talking about selling their house to pay you back and for Clara's legal fees. You'd make them homeless just for revenge? They're considering selling their house because their daughter stole $20,000 and got caught. That's on Clara, not me. I closed the door, heard her huffing outside for a bit before she left. Suddenly, vague posts start appearing from distant friends of Clara, talking about toxic relationships and men who try to control women with money, and how sometimes a girl's gotta do what a girl's gotta do to escape. Real subtle. Some even used a hashtag with my first name. My more tech-savvy friends tracked a couple of the original posts back to IP addresses near Clara's parents' place. Cute. I screenshotted everything, sent it to the ADA. Not illegal, but shows a pattern of trying to paint her as a victim. Mr. Finch, Clara's lawyer, apparently decided that since I wasn't budging, he'd try to pressure the ADA. He sent them a massive file full of letters from Clara's family and friends talking about her fragile mental state, her history of anxiety, Never saw a day of it in 5 years, and how this uncharacteristic lapse in judgment was due to immense pre-wedding stress. They even got a therapist, who'd spoken to Clara twice after her arrest, to write a letter suggesting she wasn't in her right mind. The ADA, a no-nonsense woman named Miss Davies, called me. "Mark, they're trying to paint you as the bad guy and her as a damsel in distress who just snapped. Her lawyer is pushing for a plea deal, restitution of the full $25,000 and probation. No jail time." He's citing her previous good character and emotional duress. Restitution and probation? After all this? After the planning, the deceit, the sheer gall? "Miss Davies," I said, keeping my voice steady. "She didn't just snap. She booked a plane ticket a week in advance. She systematically drained a joint account. She ghosted me. Then her family and lawyer tried to bully and manipulate me into dropping it. This wasn't a panic attack, it was a plan. And frankly, if she's so fragile, maybe she shouldn't have committed a felony." I told her about Layla at my door, about the social media stuff. "This isn't remorse, Miss Davies. This is damage control because she got caught." Miss Davies was quiet for a moment. "I appreciate your perspective, Mark, and your willingness to testify if it comes to that." So the revenge. It wasn't one big dramatic movie moment. It was me, calmly working with Miss Davies. I provided every piece of evidence again. The timeline of the ticket purchase versus our wedding planning activities, bank statements showing the systematic withdrawal, vendor contracts with both our names, texts where Clara was excitedly discussing the honeymoon we'd supposedly take. The key was the premeditation. Miss Davies used it beautifully. The settlement conference, which was really a plea negotiation, happened last week. I wasn't there, but Miss Davies called me right after. Apparently, Mr. Finch came in confident, with Brenda and Julian Vance in tow for moral support, ready to argue for probation. Miss Davies laid out the state's case, highlighting the premeditated nature of the theft, the amount of money, the breach of trust, and then the pièce de résistance. She brought up their attempts to intimidate me and manipulate the narrative after the arrest. She mentioned the social media campaign, however amateur. She mentioned Layla showing up at my apartment. She basically painted a picture of a family that enables and excuses criminal behavior. The judge, from what Miss Davies said, was not amused by Team Clara. Especially when Mr. Finch tried to argue that my texting "congrats on raising a thief" to Brenda was undue provocation. The judge apparently raised an eyebrow and said, "Provocation for what, Mr. Finch? For Ms. Vance to commit grand larceny before the text was even sent." Faced with the strength of the evidence and the judge's clear lack of sympathy for their sob story, Clara had a choice: go to trial and almost certainly get a harsher sentence, or take the plea deal Miss Davies offered, a deal that was much harsher than what they'd hoped for. The deal: plead guilty to felony fraud. Full restitution of the $25,000 paid before sentencing. Suddenly, Brenda and Julian were scrambling to find the money, which they did miraculously within 48 hours. Guess the house sale idea got real. 90 days in county jail. Not prison, but not probation either. 5 years formal probation upon release, with strict conditions including mandatory employment and financial counseling. A permanent felony record. Clara took the deal, crying, apparently. Her parents were furious, but Mr. Finch advised her it was the best she'd get. Ms. Davies said to me, "The jail time is important, Mark. It shows this kind of calculated betrayal has serious consequences, and the felony conviction will follow her. That's justice." And you know what? It is. She won't waltz away from this. Every job application, every apartment rental, that felony is going to be there. She wanted to start a new life with my money? Well, she's starting a new life, all right, just not the one she envisioned. Brenda called me one last time after the plea, left a voicemail, just sobbing. "You destroyed her. I hope you're happy." Am I happy? Not happy, like woohoo. More like a quiet, grim satisfaction. Like a weight has been lifted. I stood my ground, didn't let them bully me, and the system for once worked. She didn't get away with it. They thought they could play dirty and I'd fold. They underestimated how stubborn I can be when I've been monumentally screwed over. I'm out the money temporarily, but the court-ordered restitution is already in an escrow account, so I'll get that back soon. The emotional toll? That'll take longer. But knowing Clara is actually facing real, tangible consequences for her actions, knowing her family's entitlement slammed face first into a brick wall of reality, that feels like justice. A very satisfying, very real justice. Time to move on. Maybe get a dog. Dogs are loyal.